Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. I'm Tyler. This is Tim.
How's it going?
And on today's episode, we'll be going over our week preview, week 15, just matchup preview. This is part 2. We had a part 1 on the previous episode, so if you want to go check those out, it's the Saturday day games and most of the noon games on those. And then we also are going to preview now pretty much all Sunday and Monday games. But a lot of stuff going around in the NFL right now. COVID is just crazy. They have officially moved. Who's playing on Monday night?
So Monday night is the Bears and the Raiders moved from Saturday, then
Not the Bears.
the
the Raiders.
Browns and the Bears play the Vikings, the original Monday night.
Yeah, so there's 2 on Monday. Then Tuesday we have football team and
the Eagles.
We
talked about them
talked
already.
about a little bit yesterday, and then we also have
The Rams and the Seahawks.
Yes. So 2 games on Monday, Tuesday, which, I mean, great for a viewer. I love 5 days of football, but especially coming down that wire with fantasy football, playoffs, everything, last-minute adjustments, you're not sure. Just really keys in on who's going to be available and everything, so it's something to keep an eye out for. But I know the Browns had 11 starters not on both sides of the ball, so they had to move. But yeah, big stuff there. Outside of that, we have a couple people just questionable, like McLaurin, concussion protocol. He's questionable to come. Swift was officially ruled out for Sunday. And then same with DJ Moore is questionable to play this week. Lamar did not practice again today. So I think Lamar's probably out.
I would think so. That's my guess. How they haven't really came out.
Marquise Brown had a limited session today, which he was not practicing all week until today. So I don't really know. It's going to be interesting to see if he steps in or not. But really, that is all I remember from. Is there any other big names out there that we might have missed?
No, that's about it. Emmanuel Sanders is doubtful.
Which we kind of figured at the beginning of the week.
And Fournette's playing. Fournette looks like he's playing on Sunday.
That's good. So getting him back will be nice. So a lot of kind of key names, especially with COVID going on. People are going to be out. I did see that Michael Carter, they said, is going to be a big focus of the offense this week for the Jets. Something to keep an eye out for, which we can talk about him later. And then one other player we talked about yesterday with the Jaguars. The interim coach said James Robinson is the starting running back, and he's going to be used as such. So I think that's great news if you're a James Robinson holder and you have him on your team, because I think you're going to kind of see what we saw weeks 2 through 7. Huge production. They're going to go through him, quit trying to rely on Trevor Lawrence to throw the football around, because it's just not working. So really, that's all the news we have for right now. And let's go ahead and jump into our. What's got an update here? Elijah Mitchell to be held out with swelling in knee, so
He'll probably be out as well. My guess.
Jeff Wilson, Kittle. Then that means good things for Kittle, Debo. But yeah, so a lot of injuries, COVID. It's just all crazy right now in the NFL and just everywhere. So something to keep an eye out for. But let's just go ahead and jump into our second part of this preview. First game here I have down. It's a game that nobody cares about. Texans, Jags. You're playing James Robinson, Brandon Cooks. I think that's the limit. That's all you're touching.
Yep.
There's nobody else. I don't see how Marvin Jones could be a play. I mean, if you absolutely had to, I think out of the receivers for the Jaguars, Shenault would be the guy for right now. He's looked more as a guy the last couple of weeks, but I don't know. I'm not touching anybody from the Jags.
Look at him more last 3 games. Laquan Treadwell's been on the field for over 85% of the snaps. So but with Urban Meyer gone, who knows what's going to happen?
You don't know this.
So I say the same. James Robinson, Brandon Cooks, and that's it for this game.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Texans have nobody. Burkhead's not playing. David Johnson is past his prime.
Done with him.
So, yeah, it's a James Robinson show. I think I would expect him to have a big point game. I think probably 20-plus is something where you're looking at he's probably going to get in the end zone. But, yeah, Brandon Cooks is the only option the Texans have. And with Davis Mills, he's looking for Brandon Cooks. So, those are the only 2 options this week. This game, it's in Jacksonville. I don't think that's going to change much. So, we'll go ahead and move on to a game that kind of matters with players who you can play. Bengals at the Broncos here. You're looking at a Bengals defense that is 11th against quarterbacks, 14th against running backs. They're not great against wide receivers, 21st and 22nd against tight ends. So on the Broncos side of the ball, we've seen the two-headed monster, Williams and Gordon, kind of take over and be the lead here for them. And I think if you have either one, I think you could play both and feel okay with what they're going to produce. I know Javonte will probably eventually be the number one, but Gordon hasn't slowed down at all from what we've seen. He came back off injury. He had, I think, 2 touchdowns last week. So it's out on the running back wise. You're looking great with both of those. I think Fant will be a play this week for tight ends, but it's still questionable because they're not really throwing the ball a lot. And then you look at the wide receiver core for the Broncos with Judy and Sutton. I don't know. Judy's kind of been disappointing the last 3 weeks since he's come off injury.
Yeah. So I would go with the 2 running backs. I think they get enough carries, and especially in the red zone, they both do, that you have to play both of them. Both of them scored over 20 points. Williams, 15th running back in PPR. Gordon, 17th running back PPR. You got to play them both. I know they might be projected not a lot of points, but I expect 15 out of both of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then with the wide receivers, I'm just looking at Jerry Jeudy. I think he's too talented to kind of keep this up. He has to have that breakaway game. Other than that, I'm not really looking at Sutton, not really looking at Patrick or anything like that. I think the Broncos have realized to win games, they have to run the ball. And I think that's what they're going to do. And maybe Judy can get a couple of deep catches in there, but I think this is going to be all Gordon, all Williams the whole game. I like to Noah Fant. He's had a couple of good games, had 9 points last week, had a couple good before the bye, but other than that, it's been kind of off and on. So there might be better tight ends, but I think he might be a good matchup this week. Going to the other side, I think you kind of have this play mix in. Joe Burrow is a question. I think if you have to play him, you can, but I think there are better quarterbacks out there. And then you're playing T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Even Tyler Boyd, he's been kind of throwing in there a little bit the last 2 weeks. So I think he's someone you can rely on, especially in those deeper leagues with like 2 flexes. And with Uzama, I think I'm not really playing him this week. I think I'm sitting him, and I'm just sticking with Mixon and the 3 wide receivers.
That's what you got. The Broncos defense is second against tight ends. So Uzama, who's really a boomer bust, who's had more busts than good performances, I'm staying away from him as much as I can. Like you said, like Boyd has definitely worked himself into a low-value flex play each week. He is getting targets. Still Higgins and Chase, who are the main options there. But Boyd is a very well low flex option in your league if you need to play him, especially in PPR. So something to keep an eye out there. I think Mixon, if healthy, you got to play him just because of the potential there. But like you said, Burrow is always a question mark. You got the Broncos who give up is third best against quarterbacks. I just find it hard because you never know what kind of game you're going to get out of Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They're
a very big question mark. Last week I thought they were going to be the team they're going to go off. They didn't. They did the week before. They kind of go back and forth. It's very weird.
Games you think they should blow people out, they lose, and then the teams that you're like, oh, they probably won't win, they end up winning. So it's a very weird offense and dynamic, but to me it's Jamar Chase, Mixon, Higgins is a good wide receiver 2 option, and then flex play definitely Boyd. I'm staying away from Uzama. And then pretty much the running backs, Judy and Fant, I think, for Broncos. And your Teddy Bridgewater, you're going to stay away from them just because they don't really throw the ball a whole lot.
Nope.
And I think if really Fant's going to be more of a touchdown-dependent kind of week. So that's the Bengals and Broncos. Let's go ahead and slide into the Falcons at 49ers. This game, I think, it's kind of weird with Elijah Mitchell probably not playing again. I think I'm not touching Jeff Wilson. He hasn't shown much. I know the Falcons aren't great against the run. They're 23rd against running backs. But you're giving up a lot of... They're just... I don't know. Jeff Wilson hasn't taken over what you thought he was going to be able to do. But this could be a game if you absolutely need to play him. He could be a low RB2 option. But really for the 49ers, it's Kittle who's clearly taken over that role as with Debo kind of being dinged up as their number one option, Jimmy G loves to rely on Kittle, and then you're looking at Debo, obviously. And the real question mark now comes down to Brandon Ayuk. Is he an option you think for the 49ers? And I think he's probably a flex play, especially against the Falcons defense who gives up the 26 most points to wide receivers. So,
yeah, I'm starting Ayuk this week. I believe since week 9, he's been on the field at least 90% of the snaps. He's getting a lot of targets. He's only had 1 week since then under 5 targets. Good amount, not a lot of yards, but he's making catches each game. He needs to get in the end zone, kind of give you a lot of points. That's kind of the only issue. He doesn't have those big yards like Samuel does. But with Debo being injured, he's not 100%. Ayuk is really factored from that. Yeah. So I'm starting Ayuk, especially against the Falcons defense. I believe him and Debo and George Kittle are going to have a pretty good game. And that kind of leads to maybe starting Jimmy G.
That's what I was thinking. Jimmy G is one. The Falcons are almost last against quarterbacks. Jimmy G has played well the last couple weeks, and especially like with Lamar being out and kind of having a low quarterback depth, kind of being lower this year on what you can get out of them. I would definitely take him over a guy like Cam Newton, no doubt. Even maybe like a Jalen Hurts right now. I would take Jimmy G right now too. So I agree. I think Jimmy G's a play with Kittle for sure, Debo, and then I like Ayuk as a flex play. Are you going to stay away from Jeff Wilson this week? Are you going to sub him in against a weaker defense?
I've had to play Jeff Wilson the past 2 weeks, and it's been really bad. I think he just doesn't have – they go between Hasty,
rotate,
and then whatsoever the other running back is, Jusek.
Oh, the fullback.
The fullback, he's in there quite a bit as well. So I think it's not something I can rely on with Wilson. I think there are other players out there that you should be starting, like Stevenson from the Patriots, maybe Penny from the Seahawks. A couple other guys out there I think that would be starting over Wilson this week.
Yeah, I agree there. Then we go ahead and flip over the other side of the ball. You're looking at the Falcons. Matt Ryan, 49ers give up 23rd most points against quarterbacks, 20th against running backs. They're 19th against receivers, so they're not great, but they're really good against tight ends. So clearly it's like Cordero Patterson has proven week in and week out he's the number one option in Atlanta, and he's their best play. But would Matt Ryan be a play you throw in at quarterback this week?
I'd rather take Jimmy G over him. I think Matt Ryan does have his good games. His Falcons are a sneaky 6-7, and they've been kind of win a couple games you don't think so, but Matt Ryan hasn't had any good fantasy weeks. His best week was week 9 when he had 30 points, but other than that, he's been barely over 20. Besides, what week was that? Week 4. So I expect him not to have that good of a week. What I'm doing, I'm playing Cordell Patterson. I'm not playing Russell Gage. But even though 49ers are good against tight ends, Kyle Pitts is not your traditional tight end. He likes to line up on the outside, so I'm still playing Kyle Pitts at the tight end spot because you've seen what he can do.
That's why Kyle Pitts, they move him around so much too that he might be able to find a mismatch there. Like you said, Russell Gage has been up and down so much. When you expect him to kind of take over, he doesn't really do much. It's pretty much all Cordero, and if he's not going, then that's something to keep an eye out for. Then you also look at is Mike Davis. I know Cordero kind of got dinged up last week. Is Mike Davis a low-end flex just in case they're going to kind of hold back on Cordero? Or are you just passing on Mike Davis?
I'm passing on Mike Davis. I'm not going to say much about Mike Davis. Anytime he had the ball, hasn't done with it. No. Cordell in or out, doesn't matter. So I'm not even looking at it.
If you want a good week, it's definitely going to be a touchdown game for him. If not, then you're wasting your time. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and slide into then Seattle at Rams, which is now played on Tuesday. This game, I think it's clear-cut. You're playing Russ. You're playing Lockett, Metcalf. Now it comes down to, are you going to play Rashad Penny, who kind of, I think, they're giving him the workload of a number one back after last week's performance against Houston. Do you think he has a chance to put up the same numbers against the Rams team, who's 9th best against running backs?
I think he has the opportunity. I think Pete Carroll will give him that opportunity. You saw what James Conner did against the Rams. They are kind of vulnerable if And with this game being different, I think anything's possible.
Yep.
I know Lockett is actually out or considered out right now. And I'm not even seeing, I don't even know about Alex Collins because he's not even showing if he's available or not. Let me check here.
But yeah. That and like you look at Alex Collins, it's COVID. It's out.
Yeah, he is COVID. So he has COVID as well, especially with Alex Collins out. He's the only one between him and Homer. Homer's gotten the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
But Penny had a great game last week. And I think if anything positive the Seahawks need to go for, and that's off Penny. So I think Penny is going to get most of those carries. So I am starting him with Metcalf and Russ.
Looking at Gerald Everett here as a play, Rams are 21st against tight ends. He's kind of come on late for him. Now, with Lockett being out, though, this is another option you could look at with Gerald Everett. Would this be a play if you absolutely needed a tight end late if someone goes out with COVID or something?
I believe so, especially how thin the tight ends go. I think Everett, he's proven in some games when he gets in the end zone, and especially with Lockett out, and the other wide receivers aren't really used maybe besides Swain, but yeah. Everett I think would be a good choice to have.
And speaking of Swain, he could be a guy you pick up low in flex as well this week. Just a lot of guys with COVID, it's so tough you just got to pick and choose. So like if Swain's available and you need a flex play, I would pick up Swain just to see if he picks up that load a little bit that Lockett's going to have. And then on the other side of the ball, Rams, it's Stafford, Kupp. I know Odell tested negative, so he has a chance to be coming back. Higbee's out. I don't know if he's going to be returning in time, but you got Darrell Henderson who's questionable, and then Sony Michel. But Darrell Henderson should be back for this game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
he tested. It was for COVID, but he should be back. Haven't really seen much about it. Henderson. No, never mind. We'll look. But I think if Henderson doesn't play, Michelle is a must start.
Yeah.
He looks good. But if Henderson does play, that does worry me some because how good Michelle has looked.
Yep.
That they might kind of go between those two guys. You don't really know how COVID affects Henderson because it affects everyone so differently. So he might be playing, but he might not be 100% where Michelle gets more snaps. You just don't know. So that's what worries me about that. For the wide receivers, you got your three. You're playing if Beckham plays, you play Cooper Kupp, of course, Odell, and then you also play Van Jefferson because you've seen against the Cardinals what he can do. The
last couple weeks he's been a factor. Yeah. And I think if Odell's out, Jefferson becomes a must-start flex play for you because he is, especially in PPR, he's going to pick up the load because everyone's going to be focused on Cooper Kupp. You need another guy that Stafford relies on, and that's going to be Van Jefferson to me. So I like Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Odell, if Odell plays. And then, like you said, Sony Michel, I think they might give Richardson a week off, or Henderson a week off, and then just give Sony Michel against a bad rushing defense like Seattle. It's a great play. I think he's going to find the end zone. He just hasn't been able to find the end zone. He didn't find it last week, which kind of hindered his points. But I like those guys for the Rams, and then like you said, Seattle. It's the guys who are going to play it. If Swain could be a low end flex play, depending on if someone gets COVID. That's you kind of got to hold. Like if you have Odell on your team, he's a flex. And then he comes out that he's not playing on Tuesday, then there's nobody but Swain. I would pick him up and plug him in. So that's Seattle at the Rams, and let's go ahead and slide into Packers at the Ravens. This game is still scheduled to play the same, but is it at Lambeau or is it at Ravens?
It's at Ravens.
At Ravens, that's what I thought. It's just, you're looking at Packers-Ravens. Here, to me, it's no-brainer. Rodgers, duh. I think Adams, no doubt. I think A.J. Dillon has worked himself into a start role. Aaron Jones is questionable to play this week. I know he practiced in limited fashion today, but we saw last week he got injured, kind of dinged up, and didn't come on the field. If they're smart, I would just kind of hold them out and let A.J. Dillon run this week and do everything. But outside of those two, I know Lazard had a big week last week, but if Valdez-Scantling available, I would take him over Lazard this week just because of his deep ball ability.
Yeah, I really like Rodgers, Devontae Adams, of course. Running backs, it's going to be kind of questionable just because the Ravens secondary is a little weak, And actually, up front for them, they're giving up the fewest rushing yards per game. So I think between Aaron Jones kind of being dinged up, he was removed from the final injury report. So he looks like he will be playing, but how good A.J. Dillon's been, I think they're kind of going back and forth, seeing a lot of 50% there. And you might see A.J. Dillon more in the red zone. But I do like Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I do like MVS as well for that. But you can play the running backs like you play. I think you have to play them just because of the potential they bring. But I think this is going to be a lot of points through the air. So maybe Aaron Jones might catches the ball a little bit more. Then maybe that's when they use him to catch out of the backfield.
I know he had a big week last week, but that's just because he had 2 touchdowns. He had 3 carries, I think, with 1 touchdown. He did have a receiving touchdown as well. So heavy on the Packers here. Then Ravens, I think I'm staying away from the running back core. I do not like their running back core. It's so wishy-washy. But this week, I think it's clearly Mark Andrews, but a big must start for them would be Rashad Bateman. Because Marquise Brown isn't 100%, and I think Bateman is the next best option that they have. He put in a limited participation in Brown this week, today. But I like Bateman as the best option for Huntley to throw the ball to outside of Mark Andrews this week. So really, to me, it's Andrews and then Bateman, and then personally, I would fade a little bit from Marquise Brown, but you can definitely throw him in because of what he's shown that he can do this year.
Yep. It's going to be tough if Marquise Brown, I can say even if he isn't 100%, they'll use him to get Alexander off of the kind of out of there just so they'll cover Marquise Brown. If Huntley plays, it's going to be tough for me to play anyone besides Mark Andrews just because you don't know exactly what's going on. The Packers' defense isn't bad either.
Nope.
So I think they have the ability to kind of shut them down. And I think Mark Andrews would be the only start for me. I think I do like Bateman just because of Marquise Brown, if he does play, being kind of like that trap a little bit.
A little decoy.
Yeah, decoy. So I would say Bateman, I say Andrews, but if Huntley does play, I think I'm staying away from Marquise Brown. And I agree with you with the running backs. I'm not touching the running backs.
The Ravens running backs are so weird this year. They're old. They don't really move well. So I'm staying away from all of them. But yeah, it just I think it comes down to Brown plays. You have to play Bateman, I think, because he's the best option they have. And with all the stuff going on, it's just going to be the best option. He has to try to throw to somebody outside of Mark Andrews. So that's Packers Ravens. Let's go look at Saints Bucks. This is the Sunday night game. Buccaneers coming off an overtime win against the Bills. And then you got the Saints who they just beat the Panthers. No. Who they just beat last week?
The Saints?
Yeah.
They beat the Jets.
Oh, yeah. Jets with Kamara first week back. This week for the Saints, I think it's 2 clear-cut options. I think Taysom Hill, after what we saw Josh Allen do with his legs last week against the Bucs, Taysom Hill has become a starter play because of what he can do with his feet. And then Alvin Kamara, obviously. But receiver-wise, I'm staying away from anybody. Tight ends, I'm not touching anybody. For the Saints, that's just really where I'm looking at with the Saints. It's Taysom Hill, Kamara, and that's it.
Yep, I think there's not much to add to that. Taysom Hill, ability to run the ball, score the touchdown in the end zone, and kind of play off that. With Kamara, one of the best running backs in the league, you don't sit him no matter what.
No.
So even though the Bucs might be good against the run, Kamara gets out in the open, catches the ball. I think he'll have another big week. So between those two, but other than that, not touching anyone else's at all.
And then you go to the Bucs side of the football. It's clear, it's obvious. Brady, Fournette. I think this is a huge week for Gronkowski. Saints are not great against tight end, so he's definitely a must start for me at tight end. And then you also have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, both great plays. And then with AB, is there a third option you would look at, or you kind of just focusing on Godwin? And those are pretty much it. You're tapping out.
I don't even know if Brown's playing.
No, he's not. No, I said without AB.
Oh, I thought you said also AB. So, yeah, I think it's just Godwin Evans.
Okay.
Because you have that with Gronk and how much they've been using Leonard Fournette. You don't need to add anyone else to that. So, I believe those 4 with Tom Brady
Fournette has been the biggest key for them, I think, this year. coming out and he showed a little bit of this ability, but I think he showed more how he can catch and be an effective receiver than anything this year. So, Buccaneers, it's clear cut who you're going to play each week. You might have down weeks from Evans or Godwin. It is what it is, but that's just what you got to do. Then the last game that we have here, every other game will be after this. The Vikings at Bears, Monday Night Football. We already talked about Tuesday night games. But you got the Vikings at Chicago, with the Vikings coming off a big win last week against Pittsburgh, almost blowing it. The Bears having a great first half against Packers and then doing nothing because Matt Nagy's an idiot and a joke of a coach. That one was for Spar. But yeah, I'm looking at is Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Jefferson for sure. But I think Osborne might be a good play here this week, looking at the Bears D, who's 29th worst against wide receivers. Yeah,
last 2 weeks, Osborne, week 13, 92% of snaps. Last week, 86% of snaps. Getting at least 7 targets and had 1 touchdown each game. Yep. He's proven that when he's on the field, he can score touchdowns. So I don't see why this would stop.
Especially with Thielen.
So, and I think, and without being able to do that with Dalvin Cook going off last week, and then everyone else still having a good game, the Vikings can put up a lot of points very fast. I think Osborne is a good wide receiver, and I think you need to play him as a flex option.
That's right. I know primetime game, but I like Kirk Cousins this week. The Bears are they're dinged up. They're not great. Khalil Mack's not there.
And they had some people put on COVID as well today.
So to me, it's clear cut. You're playing all the top names for Minnesota, adding Osborne to that list. Would you throw in Conklin this week, or you kind of? I know last week they didn't have to throw the ball to Conklin because it was literally Dalvin Cook to the right for 30 yards untouched, or to the left. I think if you have him, I think I would feel comfortable playing him.
The only thing I would feel comfortable, but at the same time, seeing Osborne go up and getting targets. Conklin last week especially saw kind of the back end of that of only having 2 targets. So I think with Osborne being added to this offense, Conklin maybe be hurt a little bit. But I think the ability of how many targets he gets, how much he's on the field, it just helps his. I think he's a good play at tight end, a lot more than some other tight ends, especially on the other side with Cole Kmet. Yep. I'd take Conklin over him any minute.
Yeah, and that's what. Then looking at the Bears, you got Vikings defense, who we've seen is not great. You got 30th against quarterbacks, 24th running backs, 32nd against receivers, 10th against tight ends. Justin Fields, I think, could be a play this week because of his legs and what he can do running the football. But then it's clearly cut Montgomery. I think this is a big bounce back week for Darnell Mooney. I just don't know. Allen Robinson.
He went on COVID today too.
Did he?
Yep.
So he's out. So with that being said, I think Cole Kmet becomes a low option play for them. But really outside of Montgomery, it's Justin Fields, if you had to play somebody, I would play Justin Fields because he hasn't looked terrible.
No.
It's just Matt Nagy's an idiot and doesn't know how to call an offense. But yeah, so I like Montgomery. Then Mooney to have I think he'll have a big bounce back week. And then I kind of like Kmet stepping up a little bit and taking over some part of that role without Robinson playing.
Yeah, I can't see myself jumping on Kmet. I do like Mooney. He'll have a bounce back week. Without Robinson on the field, I think he gets a lot of those targets. I think Fields is a good play just because you saw him run the ball a little bit more. Had 74 rushing yards on 9 attempts last week. Had that big touchdown over 40 yards. So he had 2 passing touchdowns. I think he can do the same against his Vikings defense because he did against the Packers last week. So I think if we need a quarterback to start, I think he'd be a good one.
Yep.
But besides that, I do Montgomery, Mooney, and that's about it from the Bears side.
That's what Kmet is, a low option if you needed somebody. So to me, that's going to round out our second part of this preview matchup. Let's go ahead and then jump into some of our starts and fades for this week. I'll go ahead and start with quarterback. My list start this week was Taysom Hill. I think against the Buccaneers defense, I think the Bucs will win this game big, but I think Taysom Hill has success running the football, and at quarterback, that's a huge play, and he'll find his way into the end zone on his feet. So I like Taysom Hill as a must-start this week at quarterback.
I like that as well. I'll go kind of off the path a little bit. I'm actually going Tua. I think the Dolphins have looked good. They've been throwing the ball a lot. They don't like running the ball. I think Tua, it might not be that he has a lot of great plays, but he's put in situations where he has to throw the ball a lot, and I think that can help you. I'm not saying he's going to have a great day, but I think he's going to have a great day in fantasy to get you a lot of points, especially that first week of playoffs. It might be the difference.
And when they're playing the Jets, it's always a good play to kind of play their quarterback. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like Tua. I feel like they throw the ball so much, so I feel like it just has to be that. My fade this week for quarterback is going to be Carson Wentz against the Patriots. Patriots defense has come alive. I just think it's going to be too much. If they do anything for Indy, it's going to be running the football rather than throwing the football. So to me, I'm fading Carson Wentz this week. It's just too good of a defense, and we've seen Carson Wentz be Carson Wentz one too many times.
Yeah, that's kind of mine as well. I think that will I switch? Yeah, I'll do something else. I'm actually going to go with Ryan Tannehill. For some reason, I do not think Tannehill is going to have a good game. I think this is going to be a running game between the Steelers and the Titans. I think TJ Watt is out for the Steelers again, but I believe it's going to be, for them to win the game, they have to run the ball.
Yeah.
And so maybe Tannehill throws a touchdown, but I think it's going to be, if they're going to win, it has to come from on the ground.
I agree. So that's what I kind of like Ryan Tannehill, but I like you said, what we saw last week.
And it might even be like, I don't see it happening, but Ryan Tannehill does run the ball some. So if I'm proven wrong, I think it's because he maybe gets a rushing or two touchdowns.
He's due for one of those, yeah. So that's our starting fade quarterbacks. Now, running back wise, mine must start clearly especially after the news, is James Robinson coming off it's probably one of his worst weeks. I don't see this happening again, especially against Houston. New interim coach, Urban Meyer's out. I think it's a show for James Robinson, and it's going to be all James Robinson. So
I think he's going to have a great bounce back week. Mine must start from the news today with Harris being out. I'm actually going through Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots for Saturday night. If you're just now hearing this and it's Saturday night, try to get him in, but you probably already know that. But I think he's going to have a big game. Yep. Colts are pretty good against the run, but from what the Patriots like to do, they like to establish a run, and Stevens is going to be the top for that. So I like him as my must start.
Well, I think Stevenson has also kind of showed spurts of his ability, and even with if Harris was healthy, Stevenson is still going to be an option no matter what. Mm-hmm. But without Harris, I think it's a huge play, especially Indy, who is okay against run, not great. So I like Stevenson as well. My fade actually this week is going to be Aaron Jones against the Ravens. I just think he's not fully healthy. I don't trust him yet. I feel like it's A.J. Dillon is kind of taking over big roles. Anytime you need a big play, A.J. Dillon's the guy.
Yep.
I'm going to just take away from Aaron Jones this week against Baltimore, and he's going to be my fade. A little risky fade, but that's who I would fade away from.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very tough to play, especially kind of when he has A.J. Dillon back there. You really don't know. My fade of the week is actually going to be Chase Edmonds. He's coming back, but you've seen what James Conner can do. So all you Chase Edmonds holders, I think you can't start him this week. You need to see how much he's used. I know it's against a Lions team, but I can't play him. I can't see him doing that. It's James Conner's backfield now, so I'm sitting Chase Edmonds.
I agree. They've shown unless something happens and Conner gets hurt or something, it should be all Conner, with Edmonds kind of spelling him a little bit, but not too much. So then let's go to wide receivers now. So my original must start was Julio. I feel like he's going to have a big game, but I have a new one, and that's Devontae Parker with the Dolphins because of Jalen Waddle being out. I think he came back at the beginning of the year. He was the clear-cut number 2 with Waddle. They were both getting lots of targets. The Dolphins love to throw the football, and I think Devontae Parker is a step up this week against the Jets is a must start in your lineup because of the news with Waddle being out and everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really like, because Waddle's been getting the ball a lot. Now you have to throw to someone. Yep. I like him, and even we'll go on to later about tight ends, but I'll kind of talk more about that. Mine is actually going to be Cole Beasley. Emmanuel Sanders isn't going to be playing. Hasn't really been a big thing. Playing a Carolina team where they've get their numbers look good, but I feel like they've given up some points. Bills need to win. They're going to score a lot of points. I believe Cole Beasley is going to be in the middle of that, so I think he's going to be your must start.
Well, that's what, especially if all the focus is on Diggs.
Yep.
And with Sanders out, it's got to be Cole Beasley. He's the next man up. My fade is actually going to be Marquise Brown this week against Packers, just because he's hurt, and you're looking at a Packers defense who's played really well. I just don't trust how healthy he's going to be, especially if Lamar's not playing. I worry about the passing game that they're going to have.
Yep, he's mine as well. I really believe even if he does play, they're going to put Alexander on him for the Packers, going to kind of shut him down. Probably just going to be used as a decoy if he does, so I do like him as not playing.
Yep. Then my must-start tight end this week, Zach Ertz against the Lions. Lions are not good against tight ends. And with the news of Hopkins being out, I think this is a big week. Ertz steps in. I know he's questionable with a little hamstring, but I think he'll be fine. Look for him to be a tight end big touchdown week for Zach Ertz. I think I would expect him to have a big week.
Yeah, I think so too if he does play. My tight end is actually going to be Gesicki. I know you picked Parker, but I'm going to pick Gesicki as my start at tight end. Even with Waddle in there, Gesicki's been having great games with Tua, but with him out, I think between Parker and Gesicki, I think it's going to be a big game for both of them. So,
especially with how bad the Jets are against tight end, so I agree. Like he was right up there with my number 2. I picked him up in one league, and now I'm playing him. He's had some low weeks, but I don't expect to see that, especially this week, especially with Waddle being out. My fade is actually another big name. It is Kyle Pitts against the 49ers. I just feel like this game's not going to be close. 49ers are going to be in control, and I feel like Kyle Pitts is going to struggle this week. He's as average. They're average with him. They're not utilizing him, I think, to the best of his ability. Mm-hmm. And I think you're coming against a team that's rolling a little bit on defense, and it's going to be close. So I'm gonna say Kyle Pitts will be a fade for me this week.
It's been kind of disappointing because you can see the flashes of him being great, but that Falcons team, that offense it's all been Cordell Patterson the whole time. So I agree with that one. My fade is actually going to be the Bengals tight end Uzuma. Yeah. Broncos really good against tight ends. I think adding Boyd to that mix now, someone's going to have to kind of get hurt from that, and I think that's what happens.
I agree.
And so I'm not starting him this week.
He's just so boom or bust. It's tough to play, especially against a solid defense like the Broncos. He's so touchdown dependent. It's crazy. Yep. So those are our starts and fades for the week. That was our Week 15. That ends our preview for Week 15. The next episode, we'll try to maybe do a pick'em show, but other than that, we will catch you guys after this. Probably be on Wednesday, since there's 2 games on Tuesday.
Yep.
But we appreciate all the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
See ya.
Deuces.